Well, $3.8 billion will be injected in the East African crude oil pipeline project. So how will the communities in the nearest vicinity be able to actually benefit? Procurement is when the project is working with outside suppliers to buy or rent goods and services for the project. These relationships are usually contractual to make sure that the goods and services work within the timetable of the project. The recently signed East Africa crude oil pipeline project is one such project that will see billions invested. So how do we ensure transparency in that regard? I'm now joined by Charity Mujurisi. She is a coordinator, evaluations and monitoring at the Africa Freedom of Information Center, and she joins us right now on Morning at NTV to talk about how we can ensure transparency when expediting the East African crude oil pipeline project. A very good morning, Charity Mujurisi.
Good morning.
All right. How is the Africa Freedom of Information Center?
It's very good.
How did COVID-19 affect your operations or not?
To some extent it did, because we are operating at a very limited space, I must say. So it affected us.
Because the
greatly.
biggest factor at the Africa Freedom of Information Center is access to information, and I'm looking, you are not able at some point to meet face to face with some of the citizens of this country to talk about some of the issues they want to be expounded on.
We didn't meet face to face, but we did lots of activities. We're working closely with the Ministry of Health to ensure that we advocate for disclosure of information about the pandemic, because between me and you, we know that access to information is a link between life and death.
Indeed.
Yes, so in this case, under COVID, if the communities didn't have vital information about the pandemic, it would have been a disaster.
No.
Yes, we see that the community highly relied on the communication from the president. I must applaud the president that he did a great job.
So, on whom are the citizens of this country relying to get information on the East Africa crude oil pipeline project? And that's why we are having Charity Mujurisi to come in this studio to talk about access to information and how we can ensure transparency when we expedite construction for the East Africa crude oil pipeline project. First of all, Charity, as a monitoring and evaluations expert or professional, what do you think of the contractual opportunities presented by the East Africa crude oil pipeline project for our citizens?
I have mixed feelings. Personally, I don't have enough information about this project. Despite me working for Africa Freedom of Information Center, a network organization that promotes access to information, it is an expectation that this information should be out to the public because our constitution or our law under the Access to Information Act provides for this. Any contract signed by the government is a public contract. That means that every citizen of Uganda should know the contract amount. Apart from getting it from NTV, that it is 3 point something billion dollars.
Billion.
Yes. Where else could we have gotten this information? It should be on the websites, even to ask, who is the project manager? We don't know. It was signed in State House. Could it be the Ministry of Energy?
Well, it's signed on behalf of the government, the host government's agreement and the shareholders' agreement.
Okay. So it is an assumption that the Ministry of Energy is the manager. That's an assumption. So we want to know the details. What are the details in this contract? Yes, I saw Honorable Minister Kutesa saying that Ugandans are going to have up to 10,000 jobs. That is from the minister. Is this what is in the contract? We don't have details about local content, so we don't know how much are our local contractors going to benefit.
They actually say 60%.
They say
they've ring-fenced jobs for the locals right here in the country. But then what we do know that most of those jobs that have been ring-fenced for Ugandans are menial or manual jobs, meaning most of the contractual jobs are going to be for the expatriates who will be paid more. We all do know if you're doing a menial or manual job, you get paid less than someone who's getting paid based on their skill.
And that's where the problem is.
Okay, go ahead.
And that's why we don't access these documents. And if we are going to get 60% of the benefits or the contractor jobs, is this written? Is this in the contract? No one has seen this contract. We depend on what they tell us. Would wish to see details of these documents Uganda has a disclosure portal, the government procurement portal. We don't even know the details around the procurement process. Who is the contractor anyway? Do you know the contractor?
We do know that French Total E&P will be on this project. We do know Sinnock will be on. We do know the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation will be on. Yes, these companies are going to be actually doing the most, shipping the oil through the East African crude oil pipeline. But then the issue could be environmental issues. Do you have any concerns on the environment when they actually expedite construction in July?
Yes, we have issues. We know that there's going to be high rates of carbon emissions, and these are going to be very very disastrous to our communities. And these are some of the effects that the communities are going to be to go through. Even issues of displacement. We know that their livelihoods are going to be affected because they're going to be moved around. I'm going to give an example that this pipeline supposedly is supposed to go through Ruwengo. That's where my husband's family comes from.
At least 10 districts.
Yes, Ruwengo is one of them, but he told me that actually it's going to go through his father's land. He does not have any other details apart from knowing that they have put poles in the land, but they don't know how are they going to be compensated.
Even compensation has not been done yet.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
So there's a lot that we need to know, and there's a lot that the citizens at least demand from government, and we think the government is responsible to disclose this information.
And it's a very disastrous situation, Charity Mujuruzi, if even the people that we thought knew more about the oil and gas sector do not actually have any information. How disastrous would that be on the local citizens down there in Hoima, where you have citizens who are going to be engaged in this construction phase and they do not have any information on what is actually taking place?
All they know, they depend on hearsay. We are going to create jobs, but they're not seeing the jobs. I have friends who hail from Hoima. Their lives have not changed for the last five years when business began around this oil project. Their lives have not changed. But we see masses and masses of big trucks and projects being happening in Hoima. Apparently, Hoima has the highest conflict rates around land wrangles. So these are the effects that we are already feeling, and we don't know how much more is going to happen when this project commences.
What are some of the loopholes that could be used by the crooks and the corrupt to deny the impact of these opportunities on the people on the ground?
Already the procurement process.
The procurement process.
It was not transparent.
Explain.
We have no details of the bidding process. Was advertisement done? How did the sourcing happen? For
Total, E&P and Sinnock.
Exactly. How were these companies agreed on? How did they actually get this contract?
Actually, what we do know, Charity Mujuruzi, is that in 2012, that is Anglo-Irish company Tullow PLC, it sold its whole stake, majority stake, at 6.66% to, that is Sinnock and Total E&P. That is how they got into this game.
How do you know about this?
I've been reading about this. I've been reading the literature.
The literature is available that we have from the media.
The fact is that most of this literature is on the internet. There is a partial lockdown in the villages. There is low penetration of the internet, so you won't die. And I'm sure there are people who do not have this information. But then go ahead, explain to us what we are dealing with right now. You have Sinnock and Total E&P in the game taking over after Tullow PLC sold its majority stake. Now, we do know that French Total E&P has the majority stake, 72%. We do know that the Uganda National Oil Company has only 15%. You have Sinnock only 8%, TPDC only 8%. Is it fair that Total E&P is taking the biggest percentage, 72%, and Uganda is a sitting duck, a minority shareholder with only
So 15. This shows the person who has the power to make the decisions. It means that the Total is the owner of this project because they have the biggest share. They are the biggest shareholders, meaning they dictate how the game will go. That means I can say that it's not a Ugandan project. It belongs to Total because they're the biggest shareholders, meaning all the interests and all the benefits will go to Total. They will be able to set the rules of what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So they have the right to employ the expatriates. Then where will our local people where will our local expatriates be? They'll be left out in the game because 15% is so little for our own project for us to have, meaning government will have very little influence in this. And when you talk about the 15%, we don't even know who is going to finance this 15% investment from Uganda. Where is this funding coming from?
The taxpayer.
That is me and you. But we know that we are really struggling. You have seen recent proposals by the minister. So it leaves us hanging. Is it going to be like any other projects that we have seen around? Projects that happen, they come and they're abandoned. We see issues of cost overruns. Will they come back and say, actually, we underestimated? Will they come back and say that we thought this would be done in 3 years, but it's actually going to take another 10 years? We see this happening over and over again, over time, over the different projects. So the question is, how different will this be? We can talk about the East African Rail Gauge project. Where is it? These are similar examples that we see that, yes, we sign to these projects, we have wonderful projects, we have wonderful ideas, but the implementation has a lot in question. It leaves the citizen of Uganda, who is the direct supposed beneficiary, hanging. They don't benefit a lot out of this.
Charity Mujurizi, when you talk to some of the technocrats within government, they'll tell you that the fact that 72% majority shareholding is going to Total E&P is a good thing, because meaning Total E&P would be investing more money in the project to ensure that we transport that crude oil through that pipeline, the money that Uganda doesn't have. And the 15% means that's the money that Uganda shall be paying to help in the construction or the shipping of the crude oil.
So what is the incentive?
Meaning they're helping us. They're helping us
Yes.
to actually transport this crude oil through the pipeline all the way from Hoima to Changolelini port in Tanga.
So what is the incentive of them investing 72%? Tell me, what is the incentive?
They'll benefit more at the end of the day.
Thank you. So if they'll benefit more, that means the Ugandans will not benefit that much like them. They must have a business incentive in this to invest the 72%. Yes.
So what other loopholes might the crooks and the corrupt take advantage of to frustrate the impact of these opportunities on our communities?
Already we know...
Besides procurement, you mentioned it.
Yes. There's compensation. We are saying the local content.
60, it's there.
60, yes, but the implementation of that.
Yes.
The implementation of that. Do our national associations of engineers and contractors have this information?
And how many of those do we have?
We have quite many. And do they have the capacity? How have they been helped? We want to see a fund probably supporting these local engineers of ours. How much capacity do they have? If I was reading through the literature and I realized that almost 70% of the preparatory work that has been done has actually been done by international companies. Even surveys like the geological and physiological surveys have been done by expatriates from France. Is it that we don't have the technical capacity to do this? And this project has not been birthed yesterday. It's
14 years, we've been waiting for 14 years, yes.
We've been waiting for 14 years. So what have we done? What has the government done to support us as citizens of its country?
So as far as of the resolutions to alleviate the problem of access to information, would you recommend the removal of the partial internet shutdown so that more Ugandans could be able to get this information maybe from the internet?
Removal of the partial shutdown is one, but also proactively disclosing this information in two formats that citizens understand. We have several government initiatives like the Citizens Information Center. What is it exactly doing? We have seen the Minister of Information giving press statements about what is happening around the country. My expectation was that on Sunday, on the 11th, after the signing, I wish to see Honorable Minister Nabakoba tell us the details of this project. I expected to see that, yes, we have signed, it's a $3.8 billion project, so and so is going to be the project manager, it's going to start on such and such a date, it's going to be managed by X, the accounting officer. These are things we need to know. If you have any grievances and you want to raise, this is the person to contact or this is the office to contact. This is the information we want to know. Those who are going to be compensated, I told you that my father-in-law has no idea if he's going to be compensated or if the government is just going to chase him out of his land. So this is what we want to know, and this is what the ordinary citizen wants. So in the 10 districts that this pipeline is going to go through, there should be small committees right from the grassroots, maybe at LC1 level, who have this information, detailed information about this project, even cautioning them about the effects of what is going to happen. We know that there is a lot of environmental effects that are going to come. So the communities need to be educated, even when opportunities come, because access to information also promotes business opportunities. How are the people going to be? How are they going to benefit? How are they going to be involved in this project? What are the small things that they can do that they can actually benefit from this particular project?
Go ahead.
So that is what we want to know. The simple details about the project.
But what about the communities that are going to be benefiting the most? How can they ready themselves to tap into these opportunities?
They can only ready themselves if they know what the opportunities are, apart from the jobs. So I imagine that the jobs they're thinking about are the little communities who are going to start makeshift restaurants along the pipeline, small
selling food
selling food. But there should be details about this, even the health and safety measures that are there. We have seen the World Bank closing a project, for example, in Ibanda. You know what happened. So such instances, we need the community to be able to. I am so saddened that the people who are directly affected, have little information about this whole project.
Indeed.
You actually know a lot than what the people who are going to be affected know about.
So we need to do more to go on the ground and assess what exactly is happening to the people in these communities so that they can be acquainted with the information that they need as far as oil and gas is concerned.
Yeah, better late than never, but we should have done that even before we signed the contract, because these should have been taken care of in the contract obligations, both for the contractor and also the affected communities.
Well, what we do know at the moment is that the final investment decision is yet to be called by Total E&P and CNOOC in the coming weeks. We expect that to be taking center stage. The availability of $10 billion, yes, 6.7 of which, that the $6.7 billion will be going to the development of the Tilenga Oil project, and also CNOOC's Kingfisher project will be actually taking over $6.7 billion. And then the rest, which is $3.8 billion, shall be going, or will be the capex for the East Africa crude oil pipeline. We also do know that Total E&P is having the majority stake in the East Africa crude oil pipeline holding company with over 72%. You have the Uganda National Oil Company with only 15%, CNOOC 8%, and the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation with only 5%. But then when we spoke to some of the officials, they were telling us the shareholding for the Tanzania TPDC is actually very, very tentative. And we also do know that the value of oil has been dropping all the way from 2015 from $61 billion all the way to $8 billion as we speak right now. The barrel of oil was at $100. Now it has dropped to under $50. So that's what we are dealing right now. We are having a conversation on the transparency of the East Africa crude oil pipeline project. But before we continue with this, I have my brother Stephen Mbide on the line. He is ready to talk about another saddening issue. A mother.
Information that you need this Wednesday morning for me is out.
Well, thank you very much, my brother Stephen Mbide. An aggrieved mother narrating the ordeal she was subjected to after the demise of her son during the November 18th protests, 18th and 19th protests that rocked the country in November of 2020 after Robert Kyagulanyi, the NUP president, was stopped from accessing Luka district. 54 people were actually killed. 33 of those were actually innocent people who were just caught up in the fracas that ensued on those 2 days. So that's one of the mothers who are crying right now. 33 32 others are out there wondering when compensation shall be taking center stage. She wants 2 billion Uganda shillings. Now, if 32 other mothers are out there seeking compensation, how much money will be actually compensated to this whole group? And how far with the compensation process up to now? The president had already promised us that these people would be compensated by now. And speaking of compensation, the East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline project is also posing its own challenges. I'm talking to Charity Mujurizi, the coordinator evaluations and monitoring at the African Freedom of Information Center, and she tells me her own grandfather, he has actually paused being passed through his land, but he has not been compensated. His land is one of the routes through which the East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline is going to be passing, but he has not been compensated. Very good morning once again, Mujurizi. You're still here, and we are still talking about the oil project. How do we ensure monitoring and evaluation, or how do we evaluate and monitor to ensure that some of the loopholes you mentioned before we went for the break into this segment are not taken advantage of by the crooks to deter the impact of these projects on our dear communities in this country?
First, how do we monitor? It is our obligation as citizens to be part and parcel of this project. And the Constitution of Uganda gives us the right to participate, and also actually obliges us to participate in government projects. So how do we monitor? We cannot monitor anything we don't know about. So Romeo, it is very important that we get the information about this project. The government should disclose this information. We want to know the basics and the most important. We want to know the details of this project. We want to know the details about the health and safety measures. We want to know the details about the start and the end dates. We want to know the details of actually the actual routes. Where exactly is this pipeline passing? We want to know who is responsible. So once we have that information, we also want to know our specific roles as citizens of this country. 15% shareholding is not small amount of money of the 3.3 billion US dollars.
3.8 billion.
Yeah, 3.8 billion. It's not little money. Me and you are going to pay this money. So we want to know, we want the details of how much do we benefit and what can we do.
But after all commercial oil production is at its peak in the 2030s, the World Bank is telling us that this economy will be propelled to growth of 7 to 10% because we shall be selling 60,000 barrels of oil per day, translating to some 7 trillion shillings on a daily basis. Do you think that money will go a long way on alleviating the stress we are seeing right now on the taxpayer, meaning more of this money will be used to actually propel growth in this economy?
I wish that I wish that happens. It will be a very good for this, very good thing for this nation. But given the experience from the previous projects, we don't know if this will actually happen. We have expected a lot from the different projects, and we have actually not seen the results because we are kept in the dark. We don't have information about this. And if we have information about this, we can monitor these projects. I'm going to give an example of one of the projects that AFIC has actually been involved in. It was a World Bank project, construction of schools, primary schools, in around 143 districts of Uganda. So AFIC was only involved in 5 districts that had about 10 projects, schools being constructed. In the different communities, we shared information about these contracts. We shared information about the details of what to expect, the details of the number of classrooms, how many windows, how much money, what the contractor is supposed to do. This created trust and community ownership of these projects. In some instances, for example, in Nyamavale, we saw that that the communities went ahead to even do more and even supplement the projects by, for example, constructing the teachers' houses because the school project is so good and they needed their teachers to stay closer. This contributed to education outcomes. So it's the same with this particular oil. We want that the government gives us the information we need to know about this project. I told you my father-in-law, not actually my grandfather, the pipeline is going through his land, but he does not know anything. He does not know if he's going to be compensated, and if he's going to be compensated from where. So in brief, I want to say, let the government share information. Then it will be my role as a civil society person and the media.
All right, Charity
Yeah.
Mujurizi, the Coordinator Evaluations and Monitoring at the Africa Freedom of Information Center. Many thanks for having made the time to speak to NTV Uganda, to speak to the citizens of this country on this very pertinent issue.
Thank you, Romeo.
And of course, she says access to information is vital, and without that, Ugandans cannot ready themselves to tap into the opportunities that will be set forth by the oil project when construction begins in July. We also expect the construction to end by 2025 and for commercial oil production to begin in that same year, 2025. And we expect by 2030, yes, this country to be propelled to a growth of 7 to 10%. And by 2040, we shall be propelled to middle income status, middle income upper status. That's according to the projections of the World Bank. My name is Romeo Busiku. I also